Hey there, Libra rising. This is a forecast taking you on an ascendant look at your year ahead. Now, this is an astrological year ahead from the March equinox 2026 to the March equinox 2027. For you, as somebody with Libra rising or Libra ascendant, I'm using a whole sign model here, which means that you've got Libra in the first house, all of Scorpio lives in your second, all of Sag lives in your third. If when you look at your chart, you find that you've got Libra and Scorpio in your first house, then that's a little nudge to you to let you know that the Scorpio rising one will also be very relevant as well. So you might want to listen into that one too. Because this is a year ahead forecast. I mean, like there's so many different potentials that could be touched on in the year ahead. And obviously I've got to narrow it down somewhat. So what I'm looking at in terms of this reading is the big stuff, like where are all the slow moving planets and what do their positions mean to you in this year ahead? What tendencies are coming out? You know, where is your focus moving and changing from 26 to 27? How are you expanding? How are you healing? What are you trying to take shape with? And so I'm going to be looking at, first of all, the nodal shift. What I mean by that is currently there's a point called the North Node that's at 8 degrees in the sign of Pisces. By the end and the beginning of the next new year on March the 20th, 2027, the North Node is going to be at 19 degrees in the sign of Aquarius. So what does this movement of the North Node from here to here mean? And similarly, the South Node from 8 degrees Virgo to 19 degrees Leo. What's that going to reveal for you? Now, all the eclipses in this year ahead are going to take place in this space. So again, this is a place where lots of change is coming in. And, you know, you can see already that there's a crossover here in the 11th. We've got Jupiter and the South Node. And in the 5th, we've got the North Node and Pluto. So to me, the 5th and the 11th and the dance between the two seems quite an important theme. Now, I'm going to be commenting on Jupiter, going from Cancer and into Leo. Definitely going to be talking about Saturn and Neptune that are in a conjunction pretty much all the way through this year. They slip out of it for a while, but then they come back into a conjunction. We've got Chiron. He's moving from Aries into Taurus. We've got Uranus coming into your 9th house finally. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And then at the end, I'm listing 4 times I think you should be aware of in terms of managing your energy and making the most of the potentials. So hopefully that'll be really helpful for you. So let's get cracking. So starting with the nodes, you've had the North Node already in your 6th house for a year, and you've still got the North Node, for a short while longer. The North Node is going to change signs on the 26th of July. So until then, you're still very much working on or understanding why you've got such a strong story. To me, it feels like you've been through quite a few changes, changing the way you work, the way you organize your life, the way you organize your money, your home. It feels like there's a lot of things that you've had to renovate, review, rejuvenate. It feels like a huge time. And in actual fact, you just had Pisces retrograde going on in here as well. So I think that's probably added a lot of extra stuff in there as well. But, the North Node is going to move out of the 6th house. And then later on from, July the 26th is going to come into the 5th. And then the emphasis isn't going to be so much on sorting your life out, but it's more, how am I going to use my God-given talent? How am I going to bring joy to my life? How am I going to lift myself up and fall into passion with myself and my life? So you could say you're going from having been very functional, and dare I say, because you've been functional, it might have been a bit boring at times. and you're coming into a time when there's more passion and a bit more excitement. And that could mean that there's a new lover. It could mean that there's stuff, going on in terms of being a parent. Maybe there's a new child on the way, or there's excitement about living your life with children, or even that you're birthing a new project yourself. But there's a really strong creative potential that's going to bring more passion in. And that's the focus, really. It's going to be a big focus for the next 18 months, beyond the end of July. So it's a really good chunk of time. Now, on the other end, we've got the South Node that's been going through the 12th house. That's been reminding you of the things that you have got right in terms of how to relax, how to let go of things. It's so funny. It's like you've been doing a dance between trying to really hold on to your life and make sure it doesn't shift too much, that it falls out of balance. But at the same time, you've remembered what it's like to feel supported at times. Maybe some of that faith has come back, and you've, even like when you've been facing potential chaos, you still thought, I am protected, I'm okay. Maybe it's reminded you of when you were a child and things would just come easily and effortlessly. So there's an interesting balance there. And interestingly, as the South Node comes into the 11th house, again at the end of July, there's going to be more of a focus on friendships, more of a focus on old friendships, maybe old friendships coming back. Maybe you're connecting up with the same kinds of people you've always known. Maybe there's a reminder of some of the projects that you've worked on with other people. Essentially, I think where you've enjoyed yourself and felt passion with other people and felt enlivened doing stuff with other people, I think that's helping you in many ways, in terms of what you need to know about living with passion now. Maybe through knowing people that have lived passionately and seeing some of your shared dreams come together, it's giving you hope on how you can renovate your life and have a bit more joy, and really stick to it. That said, you may well feel a bit of a dance, like every time you try to run something for yourself and organize something for yourself, pretty sure there's going to be people coming in and saying, hey, I want to get involved. So how do you keep these things under your own hat? It just feels like so many people want to collaborate with you at a time when you're really wanting to develop things for yourself. As challenges go, this isn't a really harsh one. This is actually a kind of interesting one. It doesn't have to be really hardcore. Now, Jupiter, at the time that we're going into the new astrological year on the 20th of March, 2026, Jupiter's in your 10th house. And he's been there for quite some time. He's been there since early summer last year. And so there's been a lot of emphasis on how you can raise your own game. It's been interesting because whilst you've had the North Node in your 6th house, you've been sort of managing your life, trying to fit everything in. And at the same time, Jupiter's been bringing in all these extra opportunities, work opportunities. Maybe you've had extra responsibility. Maybe you've had a lot more fun at work than you were expecting. Maybe things have grown slightly out of control. And, by the summer, in June, Jupiter's actually going to go into into Leo. And it's going to introduce, again, more people. This is a real theme of collaborating with other people. And so Jupiter moving into the 11th is going to encourage you to work with other people more. Again, that's going to emphasize this sort of tension between, I really want to develop things for myself versus people wanting to develop things with you. So again, it's like you're on a seesaw. Wonder if there's a balance point whereby you can work on something with people, but also take responsibility for a small part of it. I don't know. You'll find your own balance. And, that's actually one of the key skills that you're going to be developing in this year ahead is, how do I find my balance between sort of being taken over by an idea with other people versus me erupting in my own sort of passionate expression. So I really see that your self-expression is really vital for you. Yeah, so Jupiter's going to bring in some great people. Now, I think you're going to get a great sense of well-being actually from having great people in your life, and maybe the kinds of people you want to collaborate with are also single-minded, creative types that maybe sit in a different genre to you, but where there's some similar steps that you're going through. Maybe you'll connect better with people who are transforming their life in the same kind of way. So if you're learning a skill, like, you learn it with other people, but ultimately, when you're practicing a new skill, it's you that has to do the practicing. It's you that has to develop it. You can share the experience with people, but ultimately you have to take responsibility for your own development. So again, that balance comes out. Now, with Saturn and Neptune having just gone into your 7th house recently, it's interesting. It's changing the pace of things. You may find that in this year ahead, you're getting to stabilize your relationship. Saturn's very respectful. And so, deeper commitments can come from that. You may feel like your relationships are aging. They're getting older. I mean, obviously they actually are. But there's a feeling of respect. There's a feeling of being held. There's a feeling of being understood. And there's a discernment around your relationships that's great. In fact, one thing you might find is that your partner seems to be aging a bit faster than you. Saturn in the 7th, that can happen. You might also find that your partner seems a little bit more serious than you do. I always think what's going on in the 7th house is reminding us what's actually going on in us that we haven't actually fully identified. And so what I mean by that is you might find that because you're feeling old yourself, but not really identifying with it, you're transferring it and projecting it onto your partner. And so that may well be happening. If you're feeling creaky, you might be looking at them and thinking, oh my God, we're getting old together. Oh, look, he's such an old fart, The clear remedy here is to work on yourself and think, oh, hang on. If I've got a fear of aging relationships, this is what I need to work on. Now, with Neptune having gone across, you might also find that your partner maybe seems a bit lost. Neptune in the 7th, on the one hand, can bring in beautifully sensitive, generous, forgiving, creative people who are absolutely here to give you like lashings of unconditional love and healing, people that you've got an urge to merge with, a shared one. It also can show where you might have a partner that is feeling so much that they are kind of overwhelmed and a little bit lost within the relationship. It's not to say it's a bad relationship, not at all. But if you're aware that it just feels a little bit foggy, things aren't clear, my advice is to work with the Saturn energy. Neptune and Saturn, they're here to allow the spirit, the Neptune side, to take shape. And so, I don't know whether you would you'd feel calm and confident enough to have these relationships with your partner. But where you don't, it would be helpful to get some kind of coaching that allows a clarity to come through. The Neptune theme is going to be quite a long theme. It's going to be there for many years, over a decade. So you probably want to work on this. Now, again, with the projection that I mentioned, you might, if you have anywhere in your own mind body system this feeling of, I'm sure I'm in the right relationship, I'm sure I want to be in a relationship, but there's a part of me that's not quite sure. If you've got that kind of second guessing where you're not entirely sure, that might be when you're experiencing your partner as that. Our partners often come in to really show us the mirror of what we're really going through. So again, I think for you, Libra and Ascendant, the more you're working on yourself, the easier it is for your partner to understand you and to feel safe in your relationship together. So I think it's going to bring up some real deep stirrings. Really, where this is heading is, how can you be more responsible in your relationship together? And I really also think it's clear to know what's yours and what's theirs. That's really a strong theme for this year ahead. Now, Chiron has been in your 7th house for God knows how long. He's been there since 2018, but he's taking a little vacation into the sign of Taurus for 3 months from the 19th of June. So he's going to be there until the 18th of September when he returns to Aries. Now, he's giving you a little preview. Later on in 2027, he is going to go into Taurus for the long haul. But he brings healing wherever he goes. When he pops into your 8th house, he's going to be connecting to all those old rumors about you that exist in your family. You know, like the 7th house here represents your relationships. The 8th house shows the baggage. My husband says, first comes the luggage, then comes the baggage. And so it's like Chiron's going into this place where you're deepening in your relationship together. Even if you're not in a relationship, where he's going is showing where you're developing more trust for anyone you're in a relationship with, including yourself. And so anywhere where you've taken on the beliefs of other people that maybe you're the scapegoat, maybe you're to blame for something, maybe you're the problem, whatever it is, we've all got these rumors about us that sometimes we've taken on as our own. Mistakenly from a coping mechanism, or because the love of a child is so strong, that as a child we would have done that for our parents unwittingly, without even realizing what we've done. But Chiron's going to be coming in to kind of give you a wellness check. He's going to gently pry into those slightly hidden parts of you and really show you your shadow. It's really going to start to emerge. Now, obviously, shadow work can take years. And I don't know if it actually ever ends, does it? I really don't know. But, there is a commitment coming to understand yourself at a deeper level. And it appears that you can't really go to that sort of full depth without facing yourself, facing your shadow, facing yourself from a different perspective. And so one of the things I would say, in the sign of Taurus, he doesn't want you to get uncomfortable. The sign of Taurus is absolutely about comfort and ease and grace. There's no hardship, or there shouldn't be any hardship with Chiron in Taurus. So my advice is to follow natural cycles. Eat naturally, be around really natural people, wear natural clothes, just get into nature as much as you can, so that when you're facing your shadow, you're really facing your shadow from a place that's natural, not constructed, not synthetic, because you'll be able to see yourself so much more naturally. So that's a bit of a heads up. Now, Uranus has been in your 8th house for a while. To be fair, he's probably opened up that shadow in quite a shocking and startling way already. So I don't think it's going to be a complete surprise to you. But what is going to be a nice surprise, I would say, is when Uranus does head into the 9th on the 26th of April, because his sense of wanderlust, his sense of new and exciting, and, I didn't know that. I want to learn more. That's going to really erupt, that spontaneity, that connection to life, that connection of wanting to understand things at a fundamental level. It's just going to crack right open, and there's so many more possibilities from that. So there's going to be an innovation of what you know. And, if you learn it really strongly, you could also step into the role of a teacher or a guide or a coach or a broadcaster or a writer. All these 9th house jobs are very much about sharing a new context with people, a new perspective, a new adventure with people. So, I think Uranus in the 9th is delightful, and it might very well bring you on a journey actually outside of the country that you live in. So don't be afraid to plan something pretty big, because also when you see life and the world from a different perspective, it really helps you see your shadow work in a new way. And it changes what feels normal in a relationship. So it could be quite helpful, actually. And it can really help you create what it is you want to bring into the world. So maybe Uranus is the key here. Pluto, he's been here for ages, and I did mention him a little bit. You know, Pluto has been in your fifth for 18 months now. I think he's been really asking you, what's your purpose? Now, on the one hand, Pluto in the fifth can bring in some really gorgeous lovemaking, where you can go deeper and deeper. And yeah, it can absolutely bring in a sense of control and maybe a little bit of tests. You might be testing your lover a little bit. But really, Pluto is wanting to know what you're going to control with your creativity. Interestingly, though, the more you try and control things around Pluto, the more you have to surrender them. That's what I've noticed. And so what I think is going on as the North Node comes into the fifth house, anywhere where you're trying to protect your creations as your own, like copywriting and things like that, I just think it's almost impossible. We're living in a world where other people's interactions just come into our work all the time. So it wouldn't surprise me if you're learning something about being in this multipolar world where we're all so creative now. It's really asking you to transform and to share. It's really encouraging you to share more, even though, like Libra rising, you're brilliant at sharing. This is still transforming you further and asking you to surrender more. Which brings me to this. Between the 19th and 23rd of July, there is this lovely lineup. We've got Pluto at 4 degrees, Neptune at 4 degrees, Saturn's nearby, Uranus at 4 degrees in Gemini, Jupiter at 4 degrees in Leo. It's been a long time since I've seen any kind of lineup like this. In 1996, we had Saturn here, and Pluto here, and where was it? Uranus here. Yeah. No. Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus and Saturn. So we had a similar thing, but across 3 signs. Now we've got the slower moving planets across 4 signs, all working together in sextiles, trines, and an opposition. This is really, really strong. And you can see here that the opposition between what you're creating and how it's bringing you more passion versus how you're interacting with the world and taking it in. To me, you're experiencing a new part of the world with Uranus, and within your relationships, things are really changing and transforming. I think it's really exciting. Also, there is a new moon in Aries on the 16th and 17th of April, according to where you are in the world. 7 planets are going to be in Aries, all in your 7th house. So 7 houses, 7 planets in your 7th house in the sign of Aries. This is absolutely going to bring in a different perspective about your relationships. It's likely to be intense. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think it's going to really bring up some questions about what you're looking for in the ideal relationship and how to balance it out. You might feel like it's all about them and not so much about you. So it's important around that new moon to build in some time for yourself. Then there's also a full moon in your 1st house. That's that's coming up, isn't it? That's actually coming up before the new moon in Aries. So yeah, on the 2nd of April, there's a full moon. So the moon's going to be in your 1st house, and the moon and the sun's going to be here. So actually the whole of April is really the 2 moons in April, the full moon and the new moon, are really sort of emphasizing this relationship between what about me and what about them. This is really deep. And then the last thing that I want to mention is the new moon in your 1st house on the 10th. To me, this is a time when you're getting some clarity. On the 10th of October, this new moon in your 1st house is really granting you some clearance. It's giving you some space to be yourself, some space to feel like you can integrate what you've learned since April. It's halfway through this astrological year ahead, so it's a really good stopping point. And I think you will have learnt so much by then. So that's absolutely something I would look forward to if I was in your shoes. So my last thought is, it actually feels like a lot of this development is really coming into play straight away. You know, I'm recording this, it's the 20th of March, 2026, the day of the equinox. And within 2 weeks, we've got the full moon in your first house. And then 2 weeks later, there's a new moon with all those 7 planets in your 7th house. So I think you're hitting the ground really thinking about the balance between you and them. It's quite a year ahead because, of course, the you and them is also reflected between the 5th and the 11th house. Like, where are you feeling joy between them? So I hope that's been helpful for you. It's quite a big year. There's loads of change going on. And I love the Uranus position in the ninth. I hope that's going to lift you up. If you would love to work with me and for me to look at your chart individually, so really, really see you and to hear you, then why not just book directly into my diary? My link for Calendly is in the notes below. If you like the way I do readings, then why not also join my free community on the School platform? That's www.school.com/feelgoodastrology. I do Monday to Friday forecasts covering the whole week, and there's loads more besides that. So have a lovely, lovely year ahead, and hopefully catch up with you all soon. Lots of love. Bye for now.